How important is sex in a relationship? Sexual compatibility is more important than the act itself. If the pair of you are completely incompatible in terms of your desires/libido/kinks, etc., then it's not going to work out. If you're mostly similar, and are willing to communicate openly and properly with each other, then the relationship is far more likely to work. I very much agree with this. Differences in sex drive and expectations between two people should be understood and openly discussed to create a foundation that can weather issues that inevitably will pop up over time. For my wife, sex is very important in our relationship. She wants to be desired and is a very physical person. I can tell a difference in her when this need is not being met. For me, sex is somewhat less important and I have a lower sex drive than her. What's more important for me is someone that I can be intimate with, but this doesn't necessarily need to be in terms of sex all the time. Because I know that my wife is going to want sex more often and values it a little higher than me, I try to make sure that we don't go too long without having it. I also openly communicate with her about how I am still very attracted to her and enjoy our sex whenever we have it, I just naturally have less of a drive for it than her. To compensate for that difference, I will try to use other ways of conveying intimacy to her, either verbally or through touch, so she is getting some consistent feedback in those areas. I'm not always great at this, but I try and she can see that. I disagree somewhat with some of the comments saying you must find someone with the same sex expectations as you. It's an important factor, but every couple is going to have a variance between their sexual desires/drives/expectations at some point, if not constant. It's all about how open you are about it and what actions you take to address it. This is beautifully said. I am in a similar situation to you, but I am the higher libido wife. This was very difficult to adjust to in the beginning of the marriage, because of what society had taught me about how men are always thinking about/wanting sex, and it gave me insecurity issues. My thought was, if I was just more attractive/desirable, he would definitely want to have sex more. It took me a while, and lots of communication/understanding between us, to realize that this was just the way he was wired, and had nothing to do with how attracted he was to me, i.e., he would probably be the same way in any relationship he was in, no matter what his partner looked like. But it's not realistic to try to find someone with the exact same libido because libidos shift and change with life events. After giving birth, my libido dropped to slightly below his for years, which was actually really nice for me, because he was initiating more often and I felt more desirable. Now, it's about up to pre-childbirth levels. With my husband, if he's feeling anxious, stressed, or depressed, he is simply not going to be in the mood, possibly for a week or more. A good relationship is having love and understanding for the different things your partner is going through and helping them continue to feel loved in different ways through it all by meeting them where they're at, as in the examples you gave. It's important your sex drives are similar. How do you deal with sex drives that are not similar? Edit. Just woke up to a destroyed inbox. Of course, my most popular comment is about my sex life. My wife wants sex about 3 times a month. I want sex about 10 times a month, so we compromise and have sex about 3 times a month. 27 days of masturbation should fill in the gaps. Man, the number of times that I'm independently horny is infinitesimal compared to the number of times I want to have sex with my wife. Masturbating does not fill in that gap at all because it is doing something alone when what you want is connection. Crap, sounds like I'm married already then. This guy ain't lying about being married. Getting married never prepared me for the reality of the yearly sex. Depends on how dissimilar. If you just need to adjust your frequencies to match, it's manageable. If you want sex and your partner doesn't, then you are in for a lifetime of disappointment, anxiety, self-confidence issues and eventual resentment. Do yourself and your partner a favor and find other people that match your relationship needs. You summed up my 3 years of couples counseling and eventual divorce in 56 words. I wish my ex was willing to do counseling for that long. 4 sessions and a dozen arguments later that crap was over. Granted, our fallout wasn't sex-based, emotional and a half. My ex made it to 1 session. And I quote, "Great, now I have 2 cows bitching at me instead of just 1. It didn't last much longer after that. Horrifying. Happy to hear that's your ex. Yeah, good thing she moved that on. Maybe it was bovine intervention that helped. You are utterly ridiculous. Is he single? Haha. No, he found a much younger girl from an Eastern European country to pour the misogynistic bullcrap all over. Our entire social circle feels terrible for her. Are you Ivana or Marla? Counseling doesn't help when your partner isn't willing to accept their share of burden. Counseling doesn't help when your partner approaches it with the idea that you're supposed to convince the counselor that you're right and your partner is wrong. My ex did this. He badmouthed me to his counselor and they suggested couples counseling. When he mentioned it to me, he expected me to say no instead of jumping on it. And he tried his damnedest to make the counselor tell me it was my fault our relationship sucked. He did not like the fact that the counselor turned his logic around on him. We had broken up before our next session. My ex-wife stormed out in the middle of the first session and didn't show up to the second. Sounds like she saved you some time and money. What's real fun is when they diverge 6 years and 1 kid into the marriage. I don't remember writing this. There are other options for couples with different sex drives. If the hungrier partner is fine with frequent masturbation, and the other partner can provide the emotional support needed, partners with different drives can work things out. Or if the two are comfortable with their trust, they could consider allowing a third person to handle the sexual needs that one partner is missing. These aren't exactly easy options, and won't work for everyone, but can at least be considered. Also, there's a difference between I don't want to have sex now and I don't want to have sex now. If one partner doesn't enjoy sex as much, but doesn't dislike it, they might be willing to perform, so as to satisfy their partner. Of course, that can lead to stress if one partner feels pressured about this. Basically, I'd suggest just communicating with your partner, both telling them your needs and listening to theirs. Perfect relationships are rare. Be willing to make some effort, but don't feel like you need to sacrifice your own happiness for someone else's. I think it depends on the willingness of the lower sex drive partner. My wife has almost zero innate sex drive. She is perfectly happy and willing to let me seduce her, but she will never initiate sex. I try to always make it worth her while, but a less amicable partner would almost certainly cause serious compatibility issues that would likely lead to extreme unhappiness in the relationship. If you are in a relationship with different sex drives, my best advice would be for the higher libido person to try to make sure the lower libido person always gets satisfaction, and for the lower libido partner to recognize that while they don't want sex now, if they allow themselves to be seduced, they will want sex and then enjoy it and be satisfied as well as make their partner happy. If you are in a relationship where the higher libido person is a selfish lover or the lower libido person will not allow themselves to be seduced, you will likely find yourself being unfulfilled in the relationship. As /user Lightning71 pointed out below, a compatibility issue that big will cause serious problems, and if both parties are unwilling to change, your best bet is probably to move on. Reddit link. This feels advice built for a high libido male, low libido female. It's very different when the gender is reversed. What would you suggest for low libido male and high libido female? As well as sexual preferences. There's nothing shameful about wanting to be dominated, or submissive, or wanting to do anal, etc., but if you're with someone who only wants vanilla, missionary sex, then you're probably going to be dissatisfied even if you're having vanilla, missionary sex nightly. Good God, yes. This. 100%, this. There is no golden rule of how much sex you need to have as a couple. If the amount you are having works for you guys, then it doesn't matter if that is traditionally a lot or a little. What's most important is that you're sexually compatible, like both have high sex drives or lower sex drives. If you're not, it may cause a lot of strain and compromising that will affect the relationship. Every relationship is different as to whether it's important or not. To me personally, it's not important. I would have a relationship even if sex was not involved, but a lot of people consider it a crucial part of the relationship. For me, and I'm sure a lot of others, sex is important. But it's not as much the sex itself, it's that sex usually comes from a feeling of desire, and I like to feel like I'm desired. At least growing up with abandonment issues. It definitely seems to fill a whole edit. I went to bed right after I posted this. Thanks for all the awards and support. I didn't realize how many other people had the same thoughts about it as me. Edit 2. Yes, the pun was intentional. I can always count on Reddit to turn clever phrasing into something to laugh at. I guide others to a treasure I cannot possess. It definitely seems to fill a hole. Yeah, it does. I agree. It makes you very vulnerable and intimate with someone, and it's definitely that feeling of being desired in the most intimate way. And the flip side of that is if you want to have sex and your SO doesn't, it can unfortunately make you feel undesirable and unwanted. So for that reason, I would say sex can be very important. I couldn't have said that better. For the longest time I thought the sex drive of my girlfriend was lower than mine, and it was driving me nuts. Then I realized that I just thought we should do it more often because I thought a relationship involves effing like bunnies wherever and whenever you can, because that's how you often see it in media and that's how many our friends are. Then I realized I don't even want to do it as often as I thought I would want. More often than not, I'd rather spend time with her cuddling on the couch or just doing stupid things and having fun. I was about to break up with her because she didn't want to have sex daily. That's what I thought I want, and thinking back I'd like to punch myself because I was so stupid. Now, 6 years later, I'm more than satisfied when we're doing it once a week or sometimes twice. I don't know if anybody else has that problem, but don't let anyone pressure you, especially social media and other platforms like porn, into something you don't are and you don't want. One more thing I noticed is that your own sex drive can change over time. 5 years ago, I could do it every day, perhaps more than once. These days, not so much. One a week is just about enough. Takes a while to adjust to the idea that it changed. While the act itself might not be super important, the intimacy that goes along with it is very important. Also, the feeling of being desired is a very important aspect to a healthy relationship, and from things I have read, it's the #1 reason people cheat. If they aren't feeling desired by their partner, they will tend to look for that elsewhere. So the ignored partner might be swayed to cheat if someone else is providing them with that desire they aren't getting from their partner. That's what I always tell my current girlfriend of 8 years. She thinks I just want sex, but I just want to feel wanted. I don't want to initiate it every time. It gets old and after a while starts feel like it's just pity sex. I'm currently ending a 10-year marriage in which my partner realized they were asexual a couple years in. We were very compatible in a lot of other ways, which is why it lasted as long as it did, but I eventually came to realize that I couldn't be happy with the deep lack of intimacy that came from our polar opposite sex drives. We couldn't so much as snuggle in the couch without setting myself up for rejection. Eventually I just stopped asking, because I could tell it was traumatic for them, but that just made the intimacy gap even wider. I still feel guilty for initiating the divorce, but I just couldn't stand to live like that for the rest of my life. I was a husk. It's not so much that we weren't having sex, but that basically all physical intimacy had to go, to make the no sex bearable. Edit. Crap, this kind of blew up. The divorce is amicable. The relationship wasn't really working for either of us. It's hard and painful to pull our lives apart, but I believe we'll both be better off on the other side of this. Thank you all for all the support. I feel like the turning point is near, when the grief will begin to diminish and I'll be able to start living again. I have hope for 2021. Edit 2. Okay, this really blew up. I want to print out that the divorce is not just because the lack of sex. There are other reasons too, they just weren't relevant to the question. And again, thank you all for the support. To those of you in the same/similar boats, my advice is to figure out what you need to be happy, and then do what you can to find that. This is literally me. My 8-year marriage ends next week. Wife stopped sleeping with me like 3 years ago, as well as cut off all physical affection of any kind. She said she just wasn't a sexual person and was tired of saying yes every time I asked when she didn't enjoy it. Now she's in love with some other guy as of 3 months ago. Apparently she figured out she just wasn't attracted to me. We stayed together the last couple years because we were basically best friends, so we were still somewhat happy and the companionship was nice. Hopefully I'm off to better things soon. Christmas was a crap show, which is when I found out about the other guy. Grieving sucks. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thanks for all the kind comments, guys. I know grieving is part of the healing process and I'm taking it day by day. That's terrible. I hope things get better for you. So sorry, man. Stay strong and you will come out the other side of this happy and better off. Damn, I feel you, bud. I'm trying to look forward into the new year with hope. There's a lot about my life I want to change, and I'm about to have the flexibility to make whatever changes I want, without having to worry about anyone else. I don't know what else to say. Hang in there, and embrace whatever moments of joy you can find. My wife and I were married for a few months shy of 20 years. The lack of intimacy was the only thing missing from our relationship, but that was enough for both of us to agree to separate. Even though several family members and friends called it a midlife crisis, we knew neither of us wanted to keep going on this way. Staying in a relationship where we had lots chances of happiness wasn't good for anyone. My philosophy is that I need 4 things for a fulfilling partnership. 1. To love my partner. 2. To be in love with my partner. 3. For my partner to love me. 4. For my partner to be in love with me. For a long time we had 3 out of 4, so I'd convinced myself that I was happy enough. Then that faded to 2 out of 4. My ex and I remain the very best of friends, which is what our marriage had become for years anyway, and we have a child that we are raising together very happily. We even live on the same apartment campus. After we split, I was talking to my ex and I saw her laugh, like really laugh, for the first time in years. I still have some guilt about the marriage ending, but this helped me realize that it wasn't the end of our relationship, it was just a change, and it turned out to be a change for the better, for everyone. I realize that our story isn't typical, but I wanted to let folks know that the end of a marriage isn't always a failure, sometimes it's an evolution. Thank you for sharing that, it resonates with me in several ways, and I appreciate it. I'm trying not to get caught up in the pain of splitting right now, and trust that when the dust settles, we'll still have the friendship that we built over all these years. It's encouraging to hear that it worked out that way for you. Happy to help. It'll take time to heal, and there will be several moments where you'll question yourself on whether you're doing the right thing. It's a hard decision for sure, but you get to a point where you realize that there's no long-term future trying to continue what you have. You're right, it hurts right now, but it sounds like you still have strong bonds that will hopefully endure. Love and peace to both of you. Wish all the best in your future encounters. Thank you for watching. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. We welcome your comments below. Another of our videos will begin shortly.